Welcome whiskey buffs and whiskey curious ladies and gents. This is Whiskey Whistle and my name is Mark. Here on Whiskey Whistle I review whiskeys and other spirits occasionally when I can. Today we are looking at a single malt Scotch whiskey which is from the Highland region, and that is Glenfarclas. Now before I get started with that one, what I should tell you is that this is a kind of a special moment for me anyway. Hopefully for you too, but this will happen to be my 50th whiskey review since I began. I guess that was roughly about 6 months ago. 6 months ago, well, I think it was the beginning of August of 2015. And here we are in the middle of March of 2016. So I'm not going to count the months, but I think it's either 6 or 7 months roughly. Anyway, so 50th review. If you've tuned into all of them, and I think maybe a few of you have, I really have to thank you for supporting the show and supporting me. And for those of you who commented or sent me some messages, even just liking the videos, I have to really thank you for that. And if you're just tuning in for the first time today, I hope that you will enjoy it. I hope you'll stick around and see what happens with Glenfarclas. Okay, now why don't we get right into the pouring? So let's drop the cushion there. Now, one thing I should tell you is that this was a gift. This was given to me by the very good people at the malt shop here in Seoul, South Korea, where I live. I'm Canadian. I live here in South Korea. I've been frequenting that shop for quite a while, and well, when I mentioned to them that my third child had been born, and I went there to pick up a few interesting delicacies from the shop, they surprised me with this one, Glenfarclas Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, aged 17 years, and this happens to be 43% ABV. So let's get that open there. Interesting, nice wood cork. It's got a nice feel to it, very easy to take off, which is nice. And I've already got one that's been poured, 17 years old. We should give it a bit of time in the glass. I'm going to compare freshly poured glass together with one that's been poured roughly about 20-25 minutes ago. Okay, so let's get that poured. There we are, got my Glencairn glass. Pardon me. If you don't have one of these, I suggest you try to find one or something like it. A smaller white wine glass would also suffice. Maybe just a dash more since it's number 50. There we go. Okay, we'll set that there. Catch the drip before it stains the label. I think it did a little bit already. Oops. Okay, let's get the cork back in there. And well, I kept a little, oops, that's the second time I've done that on screen. I kept a little foil cap there because I quite like it. It's got the emblem on there, and it's such a nice color. Kind of like a light copper tone. Again, my goodness. Okay. So we'll get that right on there. Okay. And we're going to let that sit just a little bit. Okay, a minute or two. All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about the distillery and a little bit about the history of the Glenfarclas distillery. Okay? So I've got my notes right here with me. So first of all, Glenfarclas, what does this mean? Well, Glen, as you know, is a valley, and the Farclas part looks as though it means green grass. So Valley of the Green Grass. It was founded in 1836. They have 3 wash spirits and 3 wash stills and 3 spirit stills. They have a production capacity of 3 million liters of pure alcohol per year. Okay, so when you think about that, typically they produce alcohol at, let's say, 65%. Okay, so it's significantly more than the 3 million, and that's their capacity. That doesn't mean they always make that much. Apparently, they typically have 2 and 2 running, with 1 saved for high demand periods where they expect to be selling more, probably like now, and also possibly 1 as a spare in case one of them is in repair. Okay, and there's also some information out there about how much finished whiskey per year they turn out, and that happens to be 90,000 liters of finished whiskey. So either 90,000 liter bottles or 90,000, and then you times that by 1 divided by 0.7, and you'll get a higher number, probably more like about, let's say 125,000 bottles of finished whiskey per year. And apparently 50,000 casks are maturing in their dunnage warehouses. A dunnage warehouse, well, I'm not sure exactly what the dunnage means, but it is let's say a single-story building, and it's got an earthen floor, mainly using wood and stone in the construction of it, and they stack the casks probably about 3 high on their sides, and this is supposed to be best for maturing whiskey, as opposed to the modern multi-floor stacked upon one on top of another, 10, 20 high in a big tall warehouse. That's more common these days, and a lot of the large companies use those. But apparently they don't work as well as far as lending to some sort of a flavor-inducing maturation, we'll call it. Okay. Now, this distillery is actually located in Speyside, so I should have read about this. They could be considered a Speyside distillery. Speyside, in fact, in the town or the area of Ballinadaloch, I believe that's pronounced correctly, I hope. So Ballinadaloch is where they're located. Happens to be Speyside. Now, obviously, there must be maybe right on the border between Speyside and Highland. Speyside, in fact, is in the Highlands. Anyway, so referred to as a Highland whiskey. Okay, and what they say about their whiskey: traditional Highland malt with heavy sherry influence. So what's the sherry influence? They're matured mainly in sherry casks, so ex-sherry casks, sent from Spain, which could be European oak, could be American oak, and the empty barrels that have been, emptied of their sherry contents are then filled with the spirit, the new make spirit from the stills, and then aged for a minimum of 3 years. Although Glenfarclas typically ages their whiskey much, much longer. Okay, founded 1836 by Robert Hay. 1865, it was purchased by the Grant family, Mr. John Grant, apparently for, I believe it was £511, 19 pence. Interesting. The Grant family still own it. So they happen to be one of the last remaining family-operated, wholly family-operated outfits. There are others that are family-operated, but many of those have outside influence, or they may be publicly traded or have other players involved. Okay. All right. Fast forward to 1973. Sorry about the big jump. And John L.S. Grant joins. So I believe that was the maybe great grandson of John Grant, the one who purchased it from the founder. And John L.S. Grant now happens to be chairman, and you will see his photo rolling through. I'll mention that when we come around to it. There he is. So that is the chairman, the president of Glenfarclas. Okay, and the second fellow there with the handsome dog, that's George S. Grant, who is looks like the director of sales, as well as kind of like the let's say brand. I don't want to say ambassador, but he takes care of the brand, and will eventually take the role of chairman, I suppose, when his father decides to retire. Okay, so I mentioned the warehouses. They also direct fire their stills. So in other words, underneath the still there is fire underneath, as opposed to piping in hot water. I guess it would be hot water to heat the contents inside the still. This apparently also has an effect on the flavors of the whiskey. Okay, all right, so let's get into the nosing and the tasting. Okay, again, that's Glenfarclas 17-year-old. All right, and before I do that, there will be a short advertisement. Please stay tuned right now. Okay, welcome back. So let's smell and taste and talk about the finish of Glenfarclas 17-year-old, shall we? When you, when I open the bottle, you really notice the smell of whiskey, a sweet whiskey. So it's got quite a potent nose, the fragrance, the smells that are coming out of there. Okay, and yes, you'll notice a lot of the sherry influence. So what does that smell like? It smells sweet and sour. It smells like dried fruits. It smells like candy. Like the gummy candies, which may be called boiled candies in some places. Like gummy worms. And there is a very, very mild, very, very soft bit of peat that's weaving its way through all of those scents. Quite nice. So a little bit of mocha that I'm smelling there as well. Now, when I was doing my research, I wonder what I would have written down. Interesting. I wrote down mandarin peels, dried plums, aka prunes. Sorry, prune industry. I know you like to be called dried plums. Raisins, subtle peat weaving through, and if you wait long enough, which I'm not getting here, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get in the one that's been sitting there for a while. So I'm going to check that out, okay? All right. So same lovely whiskey. Oh, and Glenfarclas, by the way, on their website, you will find that they assert that their whiskey is naturally colored. So there is no artificial coloring that goes in to any of the bottles of Glenfarclas. They might like to put that on the bottle. Of course, you know, that's something fairly recent that people are worried about, whether or not the whiskey has natural color or whether there is colorant added. In some markets, you will know right off the bat because that's part of the law in your country, such as Germany, such as Russia, Denmark. Okay. All right, so let's smell that one. I've put another whiskey lid on there. Those of you watching may remember I had a glass lid. I broke it, unfortunately. So anyway, let's give that a whiff, shall we? Yeah, the peat's a bit stronger. And there is a nice, nice kind of a tobacco note there. And then also caramel fudge, which I don't know why they don't eat fudge here in Korea. That might be a good idea for someone to start making and selling fudge. So caramel fudge, tobacco, some mocha, peat, the dried fruits, and well, I don't know if my nose is a little bit stuffed up today, but I'm not getting the mandarin orange peels that I noticed before. There's something a little bit citrusy there. Anyway, we'll set that aside for now. Okay, 17 years old, not that young, not that old, pretty much smack dab in the middle. You will be wise, however, to let it breathe for a period of time. The going saying is a year for every a minute for every year on the label. Okay? Okay, so let's taste that together, shall we? Cheers to all of you. Thanks for tuning in to the 50th review here at WhiskyWhistle. Big sweet arrival. So it starts out sweet. And then you notice a little bit of the sourness, followed by a bitter dryness. So that's how that progresses in your mouth, as long as you let it sit there long enough. And if you are unable to do so, you better take a smaller amount. Take the smallest possible. And, the Glencairn glass is very good for controlling the amount that you give yourself. So, anyway, so just try and reduce the amount. And sometimes the second taste will not have that same, well, like the alcohol burn. Okay. And I don't know if it's that I've gotten used to it or that I don't mind it, but, or that this is a kind of whiskey that, just doesn't really have as strong of an alcohol burn as less expensive spirits. Anyway, they say the copper really does have an effect on that. Okay, we'll try that again. The caramel really carries through there. There is a citrus element. And what I noticed, the longer I held it in my mouth, the more peat I could sense. Peat, that kind of smoky, smoky, ashy bit of flavor that you get, a taste of which you may find while having a barbecue outside, burning fairly fresh wood that hasn't dried too long, and then also cooking perhaps some sort of meat, and meat drips drop on the fire, and you get a different sort of a smell there. Let me refer to my notes as I taste that. Let me try that one more time. Since it is the 50th, I may as well enjoy it, right? I think I'm noticing more dryness today than I did I think that was maybe yesterday or the day before. What I wrote here was sweet followed by sour, very little bitterness. Now, I'm not noticing a lot of bitterness, but I am noticing a fair bit of dryness today. And ripe pineapple, citrus, mocha is also carried through in the taste, in the flavors that you notice when you're tasting it. Vanilla, and then I write here ever so gentle peat smoke, and again it builds if you try to hang on to that in your mouth for a little while. Okay, and we will go on to the finish. This is a good one. Thanks again to the fine folks at the malt shop. The dryness carries through in the finish, and you still have it's like after you've had some raisins or other dried fruits and you've finished it, got that same leftover aftertaste of having eaten dried fruits. Interesting. There's a herbal note in there as well, and I wrote down here tarragon. So interesting. Anything else I missed here? And then I wrote here bit of dryness. I'm noticing more dryness today than I did before, and then I wrote right here that it carries on. So pretty long finish given the age. Okay, so why don't we add a little bit of water. There we go, not too much. Doesn't really need very much. Excuse me. And while I let that mingle and mix, we will have a look at the bottle and the label together, okay? Very classic label. When you look at other brands, this one is probably the most understated. It's also quite nice that they're using a brown glass for the bottle, and that also lends itself to not having to worry about whether your whiskey is lighter than normal or darker than normal. It is what it is, and it changes from year to year, and that's okay. Okay. Anyway, handsome bottle. You know, classic whiskey bottle, isn't it? And then let's have a look at the canister. And you've got that fine logo on the top there, and you'll see it's got that bit of a copper color to it, okay? And again, you know, I think they want you to, you know, remember that, of course, you've got barley, water, and yeast as the 3 ingredients necessary for whiskey. But you cannot, you can't deny the influence of copper, and also the influence of the wood. So, why am I taking that off? There's nothing in there. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, let me just read the back here for you. This is not just a bottle of 17-year-old Highland malt. It is the result of over 170 years of tradition and experience, of secrets carried and nurtured through 6 generations of my family here in the heart of Speyside. Many have wondered at the origins of the unique taste of Glenfarclas. Some believe the secret lies in the tumbling waters of the green burn, married with fresh Highland air. Others believe it is our great copper stills, which continue to be direct fired. And some believe the secret is my family's uncompromising commitment to maturing Glenfarclas in the best oak casks in traditional dunnage warehouses. Wherever the secret lies, we invite you to share in enjoying and savoring Glenfarclas. John L.S. Grant, a product of Scotland, of course. Don't know why I hesitated there. I hesitated because it's written in French here, and I forget the pronunciation. Écosse. Anyway, produit d'Écosse. Sorry if that's really bad. It's been a long time. Not as many chances to speak French over here in Seoul as there are in my hometown of Winnipeg. Okay, I figure that's probably enough time. Oh. What a change. You will really notice a lot more caramel. Now they write butterscotch. I say caramel. I don't know. I think you're splitting hairs there. What would make it butterscotch? Maybe perhaps a bit of saltiness, bit of butteriness. And the mocha really comes out more as well. And I think when I did these notes, what did I write here? I wrote here that there was more peat, and now again I'm noticing maybe just less. You know, it varies from day to day. That's why you can really enjoy your bottle many a time and get different elements each time you taste. And there's an oiled leatheriness in there, as well as a floral note. Something like a freesia. Anyway, I think Yep, something floral in there, and I'm going to call it freesia. Okay, we'll taste that again, and there will be another short advertisement, so please stay tuned. Welcome back. Okay, let's taste that with water, shall we? So much sweeter. And I am noticing the mandarin peels, which, you know, in fact are sweeter than regular orange peels. Much sweeter. And it becomes also a lot creamier. I'm getting something like a, if you can imagine, like a marmalade panna cotta. So that creaminess, sweetness, a little bit of a sweet orange flavor. Creme brulee. And the peat still dances around in there as well. And the finish, well, not much is different. But oddly enough, I find it drier as a result of adding a touch of water. Interesting that. And I wrote here more herbal. And I also wrote here for the taste that the wood smoke was more noticeable with water added. And then I wrote here, the peat returns to send you off. So how about that, eh? Okay, so for Whiskey Whistle's 50th review, thanks for tuning in again. The Whiskey Whistle score for Glenfarclas 17-year-old, 43% ABV, natural color is going to be 90 out of 100. And what I write here for my comments, gorgeous style of sherry-forward whiskey. Subtle peat brings balance. Complex and yet so drinkable. This would be a showstopper at 46%. And I really do applaud them for turning it out at 43%. And also natural colored. I will definitely buy a bottle of this when I run out. Okay? Now, any other pictures that we should mention? You'll notice one picture which will be coming through, which are the family casks. So that's probably Glenfarclas's most collectible range of whiskeys. So single casks from a certain vintage. So they've given vintages to those bottles. And if you can collect them all, you would be probably doing very well for yourself. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to Whiskey Whistle's 50th whiskey review. My name is Mark. And if you've watched until now, why not subscribe? You can just click the link down there, okay? And come back again next time.